Taehyung's hands froze as he noticed a small, velvet box tucked behind the corner of Jungkook's piano. The morning light filtered softly through the curtains, brushing across the hardwood floor, but it did nothing to soften the sudden weight pressing on his chest. The box felt impossibly heavy in his fingers, even though it was barely larger than the palm of his hand. He wasn't supposed to find it. Not now, not like this. Jungkook was still asleep in the next room, oblivious to the secret Taehyung had just unearthed. Carefully, almost reverently, Taehyung lifted the box. His breath caught in his throat. The piano, their safe haven where they had spent countless nights playing, laughing, and speaking without words, now bore silent witness to a tension neither of them had anticipated. He opened the box, his fingers trembling. Inside lay a simple silver ring, its band engraved with a message that sliced through him more sharply than he could have imagined. To the one who waited, while I promised another. Taehyung's heart lurched. He blinked rapidly, disbelief mingling with nausea. Was Jungkook already committed to someone else? The thought made his stomach twist. Questions pounded relentlessly. Why had Jungkook told him? Why here, hidden behind the piano of all places? Memories of late-night music sessions, shared laughter and quiet comfort came rushing back, now tinted with betrayal. He backed away from the piano, the box clutched tightly as though letting go would make the secret dissolve into the floorboards. Jungkook stirred in the other room, the soft shuffle of footsteps carrying a groggy curiosity. When the bedroom door opened, Jungkook's tousled hair fell across his eyes, voice still rough from sleep. "You're up early." Taehyung's hands were steady despite the chaos inside. Wordlessly, he extended the box and Jungkook's gaze immediately found it. His eyes widened, the unspoken explanation dangling in the air between them like a fragile thread. "Wait, T, I can explain," he began, but the words hung, hesitant and brittle. "It's not what you think," Jungkook said eventually, stepping closer. But the weight of the moment told a different story. Taehyung's mind flicked to nights when Jungkook returned late from calls, brushing off questions with tired smiles, claiming it was just work. And Taehyung had believed him, until now. "What does it mean?" Taehyung whispered, voice breaking slightly. "Who is it for?" Jungkook opened his mouth, then closed it, eyes downcast. "It's complicated." The word felt like a dagger. Taehyung took a deliberate step back. "I deserve to know," he said more firmly. The tension thickened, sharp enough to cut. Jungkook's confession came slowly, painfully. "I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't know how. I didn't even know what I wanted until it was too late." Taehyung's chest tightened. Too late? Too late for what? Jungkook's fingers traced his own face, a grounding gesture that betrayed the guilt etched into his every line. "Too late to undo a promise I made before realizing what we were becoming," he admitted. Taehyung stared at him, stunned. A promise to someone else, while building something real with him. The betrayal settled like a stone in his chest. "I never meant to lie," Jungkook said softly, voice heavy. "I just didn't know how to stop what had already been set in motion." "Is it still in motion?" Taehyung's words were quiet but cutting. Jungkook didn't answer. The silence itself was an answer, one that left Taehyung's heart raw and aching. He placed the ring box gently on the counter, every movement deliberate, controlled, though his body trembled with hurt. "You should have trusted me with the truth," he whispered. And then he walked away, each step heavier than the last, leaving Jungkook standing silently, hand hovering over the empty space where the ring box had been. The cool hallway air hit him, sharp and unforgiving. He wished it could numb the sting inside, but it only made the ache sharper. Jungkook caught up, voice earnest, begging him to listen. "Please, don't walk away." But Taehyung didn't stop. He couldn't. Not until he had processed the betrayal, not until he could confront what this meant for both of them. Each breath he drew was shallow, every heartbeat pounding against his ribs like an alarm. As he reached the elevator, Jungkook reached out, desperate, but Taehyung recoiled. "Don't touch me unless you're sure," he said, eyes blazing with hurt. "I can't take another almost." The elevator doors slid shut, leaving Jungkook alone, hand clenched around his phone, frozen between fear and longing, silence and action. They shared one final look, a frozen moment that encapsulated everything they had been and everything they might still be, but something had irrevocably shifted. Something fragile, something new was beginning. Taehyung sat alone at the small riverside cafe, the lukewarm coffee untouched in front of him. The world outside moved at its usual pace, but inside time felt suspended, each second stretching into a silent echo of betrayal and confusion. His mind replayed every detail from the morning: the ring box, the words engraved inside, Jungkook's hesitant eyes, the unsent letters he had probably written and never delivered. It was too much, too fast, too devastating. His phone buzzed. The name flashing on the screen made him tense instinctively. Taehyung, he answered cautiously. "Hey," he said, voice low, trying to sound composed. Taehyung began, voice cautious. "I heard something from someone at HYB about Jungkook. It's a secret engagement, it might go public soon. High profile, someone important." Taehyung's hand clenched around the coffee cup, knuckles white. "So it's real?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Taehyung hesitated. "I can't confirm officially, but if it leaks before he tells you, it will look like you were the secret." The words hit harder than any punch. Not only was his heart still reeling from the morning's discovery, but now the world might see him as an interloper, a shadow in someone else's story. "Thanks, T. I needed to know," he said quietly, hanging up before Taehyung could add anything else. He stood, leaving the coffee untouched. Walking through the streets, the city lights reflecting on wet pavement, he felt a cold clarity. He needed answers from Jungkook, only from him. Not rumors, not whispers, not press releases. Only the truth, unfiltered and raw. Meanwhile, Jungkook was packing his studio, fingers grazing the strings of his guitar, abandoned lyrics scattered across the floor. His phone hovered in his palm. The engagement, though not yet confirmed by him, was technically real, an arrangement made long ago, rooted in family expectation and tradition. He hadn't said yes, he hadn't said no, but he had done nothing to stop it either. Every moment with Taehyung had been an exhilarating, terrifying contradiction. He hadn't hated her, not truly, but he couldn't deny what his heart had begun to crave, the life he imagined with Taehyung. The manager knocked lightly and entered. "We need a statement. End of the week. Confirm or deny," the manager said, voice professional, carefully neutral. "Who's asking?" Jungkook asked, still tense. "The sponsors. Their side, our side. Clarity before the media catches wind," the manager explained. "Your clarity will come only from you." Jungkook swallowed, his pulse accelerating. There was only one thing he could do. One call, one confession, one step toward what mattered most. He picked up his phone and dialed the arranged meeting spot, a private lounge where he could finally face the other party, someone who had been waiting, patient, cautious, resilient. Within an hour, he was sitting across from her. She was calm, understated, every gesture curated, yet her eyes betrayed fatigue. "So, is this the moment we say what we already know?" she asked softly. Jungkook exhaled. "I'm sorry, truly, you've done nothing wrong, but I cannot move forward with this." "Because," she prompted. "Because of him, because of me," he said finally, voice low. "Because I cannot lie anymore. Not to myself, not to you, not to him." She nodded, a quiet understanding in her expression. "I figured. I knew there was someone else before you even realized it yourself." Jungkook left the lounge with a racing heart, lighter yet terrified. The weight of expectation, tradition, and secrecy still clung to him, but he had taken the first real step toward honesty. He tried to reach Taehyung immediately, but the call went to voicemail. A text followed. "Please meet me at the River Cafe. There's something you need to hear from me." Taehyung read it carefully, hesitation thick in his chest. He didn't reply immediately, unsure if he was ready. Not yet, not when the ache of betrayal still throbbed in every fiber of his being. Evening fell. The news broke online subtly at first. Then roared, Jungkook calls off engagement, mutual agreement, no comment on future. Headlines flashed across screens worldwide. Taehyung saw them, blinked twice. His heart stuttered. The world knew part of the story, but not the truth. A call came from Taehyung again, gentle, insistent. Go see him, before the silence becomes permanent. Taehyung moved through quiet streets, the river glistening under streetlights, the weight of every step anchoring him in purpose. He reached the cafe. Jungkook was outside, gathering belongings, looking like someone holding his breath underwater. You saw the news, Jungkook said softly. I did, Taehyung replied, but that's not why I came. Then why? Because I want to hear it from you. Look me in the eyes. Tell me what you want, Taehyung said, steady, even if the ache in his chest screamed. Jungkook stepped closer. I want you. I've always wanted you. I was just too scared of expectations, of letting go. Taehyung's eyes searched his face. Say it clearly, not vaguely, not poetically. Say it like you mean it. I love you. I choose you, Jungkook said, voice unwavering. Not in secret, not with hesitation, but with everything I have left. The words hit Taehyung like fire, warm but painful, burning through the remnants of doubt and fear. He didn't answer immediately, just studied Jungkook, searching for hesitation but finding none. Slowly, cautiously, he stepped forward. Then prove it. Not today only. When it's quiet, when it's inconvenient, when no one is watching. Jungkook nodded. Every day as long as you let me, he said. The wind picked up slightly, rustling leaves around them, as if the city itself were holding its breath. They stood together, hands brushing, tentative yet charged with something powerful. Truth had finally broken through. Not everything was healed, not everything forgiven, but a beginning existed now. Inside Jungkook's apartment the next morning, Taehyung found another surprise. A folded letter in Jungkook's guitar case, hidden until now. The handwriting was unmistakable. His name written plainly, Taehyung, no nicknames, no adornments. He opened it. If you're reading this, I never had the courage to say it out loud. Maybe I thought silence would protect us. But the version of me that exists when you're near, it laughs more, breathes fully, wants to be seen by you entirely. I am terrified of choosing, but I cannot hide anymore. Taehyung sat down, heart pounding. The letter wasn't an explanation, not an excuse. It was confession, raw and intimate. He heard the apartment door open behind him. Jungkook. You found it, Jungkook said softly. You hid it, Taehyung replied without looking up. I didn't mean to. I thought putting it on paper would help me understand myself, Jungkook admitted. You had the words, Taehyung said sharply, but you chose silence. Now I'm left guessing. Jungkook nodded, guilt heavy on his face. I'm here now, no more hiding. Then stop expecting me to read your mind, Taehyung snapped. No more letters never sent. I need action. Jungkook's jaw clenched. I will every day, not just words, not just songs, action. Taehyung stood, handing back the letter gently. Then prove it, not for the world, for us. The morning sun filtered through the blinds, casting streaks of light across the apartment. Taehyung sat at the edge of the couch, fingers drumming nervously against the armrest. Jungkook was scrolling through his phone silently, each notification making the tension thicken. Leaked images from the riverside rooftop had already spread online. Fans were buzzing, forums were exploding, speculation reaching every corner of the internet. Private confession had suddenly become global scandal in less than 12 hours. Neither of them spoke, yet the weight of the world pressed down on their shoulders. The company's PR team had called hours earlier, insisting they attend a press conference. You need to clarify, control the narrative, they said. Jungkook had argued. He didn't want to spin their love into something performative, but the team reminded him. You can't wait for the perfect moment. The media isn't patient. Neither are the fans. Taehyung exhaled slowly, running a hand through his hair. We can't hide forever, he murmured, eyes on Jungkook. And hiding hasn't helped. Not for us, not for anyone. Jungkook nodded, finally looking up, eyes clear but weighed down with responsibility. Then we do this together. No excuses, no pretending, just truth. By noon, they arrived at the press venue, a neutral space, white backdrop, minimal branding, 2 stools, bottled water neatly arranged. Flashing lights from cameras and the buzz of whispered questions greeted them. A lead moderator stepped forward. "Thank you for joining us. Today is an opportunity to clarify recent rumors and provide transparency." Jungkook and Taehyung took their seats, shoulders squared. Jungkook leaned forward slightly, speaking before the moderator could guide the conversation. The images circulating online, they were real. But what wasn't shared is the context. That rooftop moment was private, personal. And while I didn't expect it to go public, I will not hide behind silence anymore. Cameras clicked rapidly. Microphones amplified every word. Questions followed, some polite, others pointed. "Is the person in the video Taehyung?" one reporter asked. "Yes," Taehyung said, voice steady. Every eye in the room turned toward him. His heart hammered, but he met Jungkook's gaze, drawing strength. The silence that followed felt eternal. Rapid-fire questions came next. How long has this been going on? Was the previous engagement real? Did the company approve this? Jungkook answered calmly, each sentence carefully measured but sincere. "We're not a traditional couple with a public announcement. This is about truth, not spectacle. We've shared a private history that now deserves honesty, both to ourselves and to those watching." Another reporter pressed, quieter this time. "Taehyung, did you know about Jungkook's prior engagement?" Taehyung inhaled slowly. "Eventually, yes," he admitted. "But it wasn't the engagement itself that hurt. It was the silence, the timing. That's what we're addressing now, privately and publicly." A pause, then the inevitable question, soft but piercing. "Do you love him?" Every eye snapped to Taehyung. The room held its breath. He glanced at Jungkook, who simply nodded, silent but steady. "I do," Taehyung said finally, voice calm but firm. "Love isn't a performance and it isn't a secret. It's a responsibility, a choice, a truth we live with even when it's inconvenient." The moderator ended the session, ushering out the reporters. The press had their story, but Taehyung and Jungkook felt a strange relief. Not everyone would understand, not everyone would accept them immediately, but they had spoken their truth. That was enough for now. Backstage, Jungkook caught up with Taehyung. "You didn't have to say anything," he whispered. "I had to," Taehyung replied, tension easing slightly. "I'm done being a question mark in your life or in mine. No more guessing." Jungkook nodded, silent gratitude in his eyes. "You were never a question mark," he said softly. "You've always been the sentence I never finished." The next day brought its own challenges. Leaked rooftop images, fan speculation, social media chaos. But amidst the storm, unexpected support appeared. Hashtags praising courage, letters from fans, even messages from sponsors affirming integrity. Not everyone approved, but a silent undercurrent of respect had emerged. Despite external chaos, they navigated life privately. Even small moments carried weight, their fingers brushing over a shared coffee cup, the lingering tension of a gaze held too long, the unspoken acknowledgement that they were now unafraid to exist publicly as themselves. Later, Jungkook found himself outside Taehyung's apartment. The day had been long, filled with interviews and calls. But he needed this, needed closure, needed reassurance. Taehyung opened the door, wearing a hoodie, face soft but eyes sharp. "Rough day?" Jungkook asked. "You could say that," Taehyung replied, "but I'm here." Jungkook stepped closer, brushing a hand along Taehyung's sleeve. "Your father called, didn't he?" Taehyung nodded. "He asked if I love you. I said yes." Jungkook's breath caught. "You did?" "I did, because I do," Taehyung said quietly, firm in his truth. They entered the apartment in silence, each step measured. For the first time, the apartment felt lighter. No secrets, no letters left unread, just the quiet pulse of two people beginning to confront the world together against expectation, against fear. That evening, a dinner invitation arrived. Traditional Korean setting, low floor seating, warm lighting. Taehyung's heart pounded, uncertain if he was ready to face Jungkook's parents, to navigate scrutiny, tradition, and judgment. But he went, steadying himself, knowing honesty would be their shield. Inside, Jungkook's parents greeted him, courteous but cautious, assessing, quietly observing. Conversation began in neutral tones, food, weather, music. Yet beneath every word flowed tension, curiosity, and subtle approval. Finally, Jungkook's father leaned forward. "Let me speak plainly. We are traditional. We view things differently. Change is never easy. Are you ready for what comes if this path continues?" Taehyung met Jungkook's hand under the table, strength passing silently between them. "I am," he said softly. "I'm choosing honesty over fear." The conversation continued, careful, probing, challenging, but respectful. Questions about childhood, preferences, habits. Gradually, small smiles appeared. Doors opened slightly, windows to acceptance left ajar. After the meal, the streets of Cheongdamdong glowed under navy sky and golden lamplight. Walking side by side, they spoke in low tones, voices softened by night. "You were amazing in there," Jungkook said. "I was terrified," Taehyung admitted, "but I wasn't hiding." "They didn't reject you. They asked hard questions and you answered honestly," Jungkook said. Taehyung smiled faintly, exhaling the tension that had gripped him for days. "We're not done yet, but this was the first step." Jungkook nodded. "We face it together, no matter the questions, no matter the world." And as they walked through quiet streets, hands occasionally brushing, the city seemed to fade, leaving only the pulse of their hearts, the fragile but unwavering conviction that honesty, painful, messy, demanding, was the only way forward. The following morning arrived heavy with the weight of consequence. Taehyung awoke to notifications flooding his phone, social media alerts, fan tweets, articles, speculation. Some praised his courage, some criticized, others simply questioned everything they thought they knew about Jungkook. He stared at the ceiling for a long moment, mind racing, heart heavy. This was the reality they had chosen, truth in public, but the world was louder than their private conversations. Jungkook was already awake, packing the small space between the couch and the kitchenette. His phone sat beside him, messages from the management team blinking insistently. "They want statements, interviews, clarity, now," one read. Another, "Sponsors are calling, fans are reacting, control this before it spirals." Jungkook ran a hand through his hair, frustrated but resolute. "We can't control everything," he murmured, voice low, almost to himself. Taehyung sat up, eyes sharp despite the exhaustion. "Then we control what we can," he said. "Each word we speak, each action we take, together, no pretending." Jungkook paused, studying him. "You're right, together," he agreed. There was a quiet strength in Taehyung's words that anchored him. For all the chaos outside, inside that apartment, they were still theirs. By noon, they were on the move. First stop, a short private meeting with the company executives. The room smelled faintly of polished wood and coffee, tension hanging in the air like a fog. Executive after executive expressed concern, not anger but anxiety. "You've changed the narrative," one said carefully. "The public sees you differently now. Your image, your sponsorships, your upcoming projects, they're all in flux." Jungkook leaned back, arms crossed, eyes unwavering. "And that's acceptable. I refuse to sacrifice truth for appearances. Taehyung and I, what we have isn't a product to be sold. It's real." A murmur ran through the room. Some executives nodded subtly, others pressed further. "You understand the risks, the potential backlash." "I do," Jungkook replied. "But silence and pretense aren't safe, not for us, not anymore." After the meeting, Taehyung and Jungkook walked to the rooftop again, the space still quiet, still carrying traces of their previous confession. The city below hummed, indifferent yet electric. "Do you feel lighter?" Taehyung asked, voice soft, almost afraid to break the fragile calm. Lighter, yes, Jungkook admitted. But the world isn't easier. Not yet. Every step forward it feels like walking through glass. Taehyung took his hand, squeezing gently. Then we walk together. Even if it cuts, we face it side by side. The day spiraled quickly into chaos as interviews began. Fans demanded clarity, reporters chased speculation, and online forums exploded with theories. Every image, every phrase, every subtle gesture from them was dissected endlessly. Taehyung felt the weight of it, the pressure pressing on him like a physical force. Back in their private apartment, they huddled together, reading the comments online. Some were supportive, praising courage, honesty, and bravery. Others were harsh, questioning motives, doubting love, twisting their story into gossip. "It's exhausting," Taehyung murmured, leaning against Jungkook's shoulder. "The world wants us to be perfect or silent, and we're neither." Jungkook stroked his hair, silent but attentive. "They can try to shape us, control the story, but we decide our truth. That's what matters." That evening they received unexpected news. A major sponsor had pulled out of an upcoming project, citing uncertainty over public perception. Another offered to double investment, praising authenticity and transparency. It was the yin and yang of fame, risk and reward intertwined, unpredictable and relentless. Despite the external pressure, their private moments became sanctuaries. Small gestures carried weight, brushing fingers over shared coffee cups, leaning into each other during quiet meals, whispered reassurances in the dark. The apartment was their fortress, even as the city roared outside. Later that night, Taehyung received a call from his older brother. "I saw the news," he said cautiously. "Your family, they're concerned. Are you okay?" Taehyung exhaled slowly. We're okay. Jungkook and I were facing it together." "You sound different," his brother remarked. "Stronger." "I've had to be," Taehyung admitted, eyes soft but resolute. "And I'm not alone." The next morning brought a mix of relief and new tension. Interviews continued, social media chatter persisted, yet a subtle shift was evident. Some fans, once critical, began expressing support. More understood that authenticity mattered more than perfection. Slowly, the narrative began to balance, not entirely under their control, but no longer solely dictated by others. At rehearsal, Jungkook strummed his guitar, each chord deliberate, each note a grounding force. Taehyung watched, absorbing the rhythm, the familiarity. They had lost the comfort of secrecy but gained the strength of honesty. A letter arrived that afternoon, unsigned, brief. "Tonight, Rooftop, alone, there's something you need to see." Taehyung's pulse quickened. Every instinct warned caution, but his heart recognized the handwriting even before confirmation. He arrived at the rooftop just as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery oranges and deep purples. The city lights flickered on, casting reflections on glass and steel. Jungkook was already there, standing with his guitar, the setup intimate yet deliberate. 2 stools, a single mic, strings of lights overhead. "This isn't for anyone but us," Jungkook said softly, adjusting the strap. "I wrote something and I need you to hear it." Taehyung's chest tightened, heart caught between anticipation and fear. The first chord rang clear, fragile, hesitant. Jungkook's voice followed, raw and vulnerable, recounting every late night, every unspoken word, every secret held too long. The lyrics weren't just music. They were confession, apology, plea, and affirmation all at once. By the final note, both were silent, the weight of truth hanging in the cool night air. Taehyung didn't applaud. He didn't speak. He just looked at Jungkook, taking in every nuance, every tremor in his hands and voice. "That was brave," he said finally. "Not brave enough," Jungkook admitted, "but enough to start." They lingered in the quiet, holding hands unconsciously, feeling the tremor of reality beneath them, the glare of the world, the whispers of fans, the judgment of industry, but also the undeniable pulse of honesty, love, and commitment. As night deepened, they stepped away from the rooftop, returning to the sanctuary of their apartment. Messages, notifications, and the constant hum of expectation still awaited them, but inside there was a fragile, unwavering peace. They weren't just surviving, they were existing as themselves. Outside, the city slept uneasily, unaware of the quiet revolution unfolding in a small apartment, where two hearts, once hidden, now beat openly, fully, and together. The morning after the rooftop confession was quieter than either of them expected. Outside, the city buzzed as usual, traffic weaving like threads through concrete veins, but inside their apartment there was a fragile calm. Taehyung sipped his coffee slowly, feeling the warmth spread, grounding him. Jungkook was beside him, fingers drumming lightly against the table, eyes distant, mind clearly running through the implications of yesterday's decisions. "They're going to ask questions," Jungkook said finally, voice low but certain. "Fans, sponsors, management, everyone wants clarity." "I know," Taehyung replied, "and we give them the truth, just not the parts that belong to us alone." He leaned back, running a hand over his face. "Some things are ours to hold, no matter how loud the world gets." The phone rang. It was Taehyung's manager, voice careful but urgent. "The press has caught wind of the rooftop. They're already spinning it into headlines. You need to issue a statement or speculation will spiral further." Taehyung took a slow breath. "We'll handle it together and make it clear everything said will be true, nothing more, nothing less." By mid-afternoon, they were standing in a quiet corner of the studio, preparing for a pre-scheduled interview. Cameras were off, lights dim, microphones adjusted, but the tension was palpable. Jungkook's hand brushed Taehyung's subtly, grounding both. They had rehearsed responses, carefully curated phrases to maintain honesty without oversharing, but instinct told Taehyung that rehearsals were only half of the battle. The interview began. Questions were pointed, probing, unrelenting. "Are you in a relationship with Jungkook?" asked one reporter. Taehyung glanced at him, then back at the interviewer. "We're close," he said cautiously. The pause that followed felt like hours. "But more than that, it's complicated and private." Social media erupted within minutes of the teaser clips being released. Hashtags spiked, comments flooded, speculation ran wild. Some fans were supportive, praising courage and honesty. Others were critical, insisting that celebrities should maintain distance from personal exposure. Taehyung ignored it all, focusing solely on Jungkook, reading the subtle cues in his posture, his breathing, the tiny shifts that spoke volumes. Later that evening, Taehyung found himself standing in front of the traditional Korean restaurant in Cheongdam-dong. His heart pounded, not from the previous chaos, but from the uncertainty of meeting Jungkook's parents for the first time. The invitation had come as a message. "They want to meet us. No pressure, but it's time." He paused outside the wooden sliding doors, inhaling deeply, trying to center himself. The aroma of sesame oil and grilled bulgogi seeped through the cracks, drawing him forward. Jungkook arrived moments later, understated but composed, eyes quiet but protective. They entered together, the weight of expectation pressing softly yet relentlessly against their shoulders. The dinner began with polite conversation, neutral topics, family stories, music, schedules. But beneath each smile, beneath every careful word, there was tension, a silent negotiation of trust and understanding. Taehyung observed, listening closely to the cadence of Jungkook's mother's voice, the subtle assessments in his father's eyes. Finally, Jungkook's father spoke directly. "We understand your feelings," he said, tone even but firm. "But tradition matters. You are aware of the responsibilities involved. Are you prepared for the scrutiny this will bring?" Taehyung met his gaze steadily. "I am," he said, "not just for myself but for Jungkook, for us." The dinner continued, questions and answers weaving a delicate balance. They spoke of family, of values, of commitment, carefully threading truth without oversharing. Jungkook's hand brushed against Taehyung's under the table, a small, silent reassurance. After dinner, they walked through the quiet streets, neon reflections flickering across wet pavements. "That went better than expected," Taehyung said softly. Jungkook smiled faintly. "Better than I imagined, but we're not done. Not with the world, not with ourselves." Days blurred into weeks. The media circus never fully dissipated. Rumors, leaks, fan speculation, they all persisted. Yet through it all, Taehyung and Jungkook maintained their shared rhythm. Small moments of normalcy, a quiet coffee in the morning, an impromptu rooftop session, late-night conversations in the apartment, became lifelines. One evening, Taehyung received another letter, folded neatly, slipped under the studio door. No sender name, just a time, 8:00 p.m. Rooftop. He knew immediately it was Jungkook. The message carried urgency, a weight that pressed against his chest. He arrived at the rooftop to find Jungkook already waiting, guitar in hand, two stools set under a gentle cascade of string lights. "This isn't for anyone else," Jungkook said. "Not for fans, not for media, only for you." The music began, soft at first, delicate, every note a confession. Jungkook's voice carried the weight of the past weeks, of secrets kept, of emotions restrained. The lyrics were direct, intimate, an account of vulnerability, fear, and unwavering affection. Taehyung listened, each word embedding itself in his chest. By the end, silence settled between them, heavy but not oppressive. Taehyung didn't speak. He didn't need to. Jungkook's eyes, glistening under the rooftop lights, said everything. "That was brave," Taehyung finally whispered. "Not brave enough," Jungkook admitted, "but enough to start." The following day brought another wave of challenges, press inquiries, social media scrutiny, and management emails demanding immediate responses. Taehyung felt the pressure mounting, but his resolve remained steadfast. He and Jungkook were no longer hiding, no longer deflecting. Their lives, emotions, and truths were fully entwined. By the evening, they returned to the apartment, finding solace in quiet routines, dinner prepared together, casual conversations, the comfort of shared silence. Outside, the city roared, indifferent yet present. Inside, they existed on their own terms. And for the first time since the ring box was discovered, Taehyung allowed himself a breath of relief. They had navigated betrayal, confusion, and societal expectation, and emerged intact, stronger, aligned, and undeniably connected. But even as calm settled, a new sense of responsibility emerged. Their choices had consequences. Every word spoken publicly, every gesture in private, now carried the potential to ripple far beyond their apartment walls. They were aware, prepared, but not intimidated. Together, they could withstand it. Jungkook reached for Taehyung's hand, thumb brushing lightly across knuckles. "Whatever comes next," he said softly, "we face it together." "Together," Taehyung echoed, voice steady. The night deepened, city lights shimmering below, their hands intertwined as if to anchor them against every storm, every expectation, every judgment. For now, that was enough.